Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this episode and all of our episodes a drinking game.
Uh-huh.
So anytime we say anything negative at all about the film, about our wonderful sponsors, we're going to play this sound. That sound means we need to take a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass as we go back to 76 with a movie that redefines if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Jesus Christ. Cheers. Oh, that's
on the back of a shot.
That's a spoiler. That's a spoiler.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
All right, people, we are going to be talking about films from 1976, and we have chosen for this installment The Tenant, which is a Roman Polanski film. It is the film he did after Chinatown. We'll talk a little bit about that. If that spiked anybody's back hair, us just saying that out loud, we can talk about it just a little bit, but whatever. We'll get into it a little bit, understanding the importance of all that kind of stuff, but we want to talk about the movie. We have already done a 1976 episode in our feed from way back in the day in COVID.
It's my angriest episode ever.
Well, because of the last movie, but we did 3 movies at the time, so we were good and toasty by the end because the drinks are real, people. Go ahead and watch our YouTube. The drinks are real. We did Taxi Driver. We did Network. That's right, just a casual little
easy
little
viewing.
flick. And so we decided to try to prop up a terrible film and test our gimmick of buzzing when we say anything negative with, Dave, what was it?
Stay Hungry.
Stay Hungry. You want to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger play the violin? Watch Stay Hungry. You want to watch Dave get mad? Watch our episode or listen to our episode.
Actually, on the YouTube, there's going to be a little card that pops up. If you click on that, you'll see me as the most angriest motherfucker in the world after watching this movie.
The other day, I had in my mind's eye this shot of this old man like clog dancing, and I was like, what is that from?
Yeah.
It's that sequence.
Oh my God. Yeah,
old man
where
was
he just turns off and no adequately explained. Don't get me started. It's my problem. I'll work through it. Okay.
That movie, it really stars a young Jeff Bridges and a young Sally Field, but Arnold Schwarzenegger,
he's young.
He's young.
And he's really trying to be like a nice, tender, sweethearted, like borderline rom-com-y guy, and Dave, it didn't work for Dave. So John, you want to?
Didn't work for me in that.
So anyway, so we'll talk about films from 1976, and then this year film, The Tenant, starring writer director Roman Polanski. But first, John,
good joke. Wrong movie.
You want to go ahead and shout our sponsors out?
Yeah, I'll shout them out. Actually, you can shout yourself out. There's another laugh if you're not watching, if you're just listening. There's a fourth person here. DASEIN is back with us this week. He's here to talk about The Tenant and to also tell you a little bit about some music that is coming out on all available streaming platforms. That's DASEIN, DASEIN. What do you got coming out? What are you promoting? What are you hearing?
Awesome. Yeah, dude, thanks for having me again. Had a lot of fun last time, so I know we're going to have fun this time too. I think you're referencing the newest EP that just came out, which is Selected Nessian Interludes, Volume 1. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but it contains 2 tracks that are going to serve as interludes in this kind of larger Nessian project that I'm working on and will probably be working on until I go to my grave.
Let's just unpack that for a second. Let's just unpack that for a second. I think you're talking about this new shit I've got coming out, not the other new shit I've got coming out. But how much new shit have you got coming out?
There's a lot of plates spinning right now.
I told you guys. Did I tell you about this piece? It's basically going to be like, how long do you think it's actually going to be when it's done? 5 hours, 7 hours?
God knows.
It's
something.
It's like this massive. It's your Proust. It is your remembrance.
in search of lost time.
It's the kind of thing you start at a party and it's still going when the party's over.
Oh my God!
And you take a journey, if you know what I'm saying.
You know what's really great though? It's so fucking long. There's so much to get to it. He's releasing it bit by bit, but the nature of your music, you can drop in anytime, folks. Yeah. Just listen to any of these interludes. They stand alone. It's really, really beautiful. So anyway,
I was about to compare it to the Green Mile, but you can't drop that into that anytime.
Yeah, that'd be confusing.
Oh, come on. Yeah. God, the Green
No,
Mile.
I bought it in installments when it first came out. I got it in the original.
so
he wrote,
cool.
he wrote.
Yeah, I
like
remember
a
you
novella.
mentioning that on the podcast at one point. I'm so jealous. I have the collection of the 6 volumes or whatever as it came out. That must have been so fun.
Yeah, I had to wait like a month for each one. Yeah.
Dave, I think that was one of the first things you and I connected on when you told me that you had, when he first moved into the apartment, he said he'd read every single word written by Stephen King. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. I'm a couple behind now.
Jesus.
We're going to get along. Yeah.
Because he's
I'm
like
behind
George
on
R.
the
R.
two
Martin,
birds.
he is fucking not. He's churning them out like crazy. So I'm a little bit behind.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling he also wrote the 6th Game of Thrones book for fun. And literally
He's
probably
just sitting on
and he
it.
probably sent it to George R. R. Martin and said, if you don't release your 6th book in 1 year,
Either
I'm
him
fucking
or
publishing
Brandon
this."
Sanderson.
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
Sanderson,
look, George,
also prolific.
George, I've written 2 of them. Look.
We're having fun. We're glad you're on the show. Welcome back, folks. That was a fun little chit chat. 1970 fucking 6.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part of the episode. We're doing the random year generator. It's my fault. You're welcome. Jeff, this is my favorite part of the episode. Tell
Wait,
me,
I own it.
and the listeners at home, take me back. What happened in the year of 1976 in the world of cinema?
Okay, we do have a rant and we do have a mini review though. So should we do those
Oh,
before
sure.
we get into
Oh.
1976
Yeah, we
here?
should. Yeah, we should. You can
Or do we
actually
want to just tease them? No, we should. We'll go
fuck me.
through.
No. Let's do the rants and let's do a mini review, and then we can properly get into it. That's my
Okay.
fault.
Does anybody else have a rant?
No.
Nope. Just
Yeah,
you.
go
Why
ahead.
don't why don't you go for it? Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Here we go.
Okay, guys. Febreze is fucking bullshit. Febreze is horse shit. I can't tell you the amount of times recently that I've either used Febreze or somebody else has, and I feel bad for them knowing that it's dense. It just makes the poop smell denser and chemicalier, and you walk into a fucking wall and you're just adding to the poop smell. You're not eliminating the poop smell. It's terrible. Whereas the Trader Joe's fucking poopery thing, it leaves the room feeling like you just had a fucking diffuser in there with
much
this
poop do you
fucking
have in the
natural
house?
oilers. How much? Can I buzz someone else during my rant, Dave? So I did a show this weekend, and there was one toilet in the dressing room, and I just had to do it. It was like 5 minutes before we went on. It's 90 minutes. I have no time, and I had to do it. And I had the spray, and I was like, this is the ultimate test. And I did it, and it was great. The next person came in. I was like, did the spray work? And it was like, it smelled great in there. And I was like, yes! What the fuck is wrong with Febreze? Step your shit up.
Trader Joe's poopery.
Whatever
Is
it's
that what
called.
it's
Yeah, I don't know. It's called
Poopery. That makes sense.
Febreze.
It's
is
like
horse
potpourri with a
shit.
silent T.
You know how the decongestants?
You're talking specifically about Febreze
Yeah.
bathroom spray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For when you decide to, Oppenheimer the bathroom just before the show starts.
Honestly, talk about a faux pas. Doing it in the dressing room. It's like when you're on the fucking touring bus, the tour bus, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to go in there, I guess.
Oh,
if you're
it's
Jeff.
bad. No number 2 rule gets broken very quickly. Also, you know how the decongestant, they turned out like they don't actually work as much. It's like all mental. Like,
Yep.
have you heard this?
Yeah.
Brandon, you're a doctor. Brandon, I laughed so loud at the last time you were on where I was like, therapy's great, right, Brandon? No, but you are studied in this field. Have you heard about this where the decongestants don't actually work?
I have
One of
not.
them.
I've never thought that the fake Sudafed, the phenylephrine, I've never thought that did shit.
Yeah, that's the
Sudafed,
one.
though.
That's the one.
Is that what you're talking about? Because
Yeah.
that was proven. Not that
Yeah.
all decongestants.
No,
Yeah.
not all,
It's
but
just
there's like
Yeah, that
there's
was bullshit.
Yeah,
there's
phenylephrine,
N
they-
ingredients that
yeah.
exactly.
That's the
yeah.
one.
I want them to test Febreze. I want them to retest it. Okay.
A scientific
Febreze, if
study.
you would like
was
to
a-
sponsor
That was
this
a
show,
long road.
Okay.
get in touch with us.
Febreze, if you'd like to up your game and then sponsor this show, yeah.
I've gone past my minute. Guys,
Oh, yes, I have.
we have at least one mini review. Has anybody else seen the new release that unfortunately we couldn't do as a podcast, but also everybody's talking about it now, and we wanted to talk about a Roman Polanski movie instead? Who else besides our
The
friend
Say
John
brothers saw
Both
it.
Say brothers.
Yeah.
Dave, you
Yeah.
and I are eating popcorn for this one. All right.
Yep.
Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's miniseries that he released as a theatrical picture. No, honestly, the runtime, I don't give a shit about it, except
It's
that I
3.5
can't find,
hours.
except that I can't find time to see it. But the fact that it made $23 million domestically and another whatever, it made like $47 million internationally, and that's wild for this Apple's best movie in theaters to date. Guys, talk to us about Martin Scorsese's potential last, or maybe one of his last ever films. Let's go.
I'm going to say this to kick us off, Brandon, just because I know this isn't going to be a long talk. I loved it. I think Brandon loved it. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. Leonard Maltin, the famous film critic, he teaches a class at this school I go to here in Los Angeles, and
What a way of starting your speech here.
Yeah, BuzzFeed motherfucker. You know the rules.
He screens these big movies and has big writers and directors come in, and I kind of snuck into this one. I got Elizabeth and I into it, and I thought he had a really great way to introduce the film. He just said a few words, and he basically just said, "I saw this a few nights ago at the Directors Guild," and he said, "I'm still turning over in my mind how to classify this movie. I'm not sure how to describe the genre of this movie because it kind of handles a bunch of different things." And I guess that's just something that I would say in my mini review, aside from the fact that it's brilliant and you should go see it. I think it might be reductive to call it a crime story or a Western or a historical pick. It kind of transcends all of those things, which is so exciting. If you're a Scorsese fan or if you're just a fan of movies in general, this is it just happens to be made by a brilliant man who's at the not end of his career, but is at the latter stages of his life.
I would say both.
Still, oh, come on. He is
one
still
ends, the other
pushing
ends, dude.
himself. Sorry, I'm drinking. Yeah, exactly. He is still pushing himself so hard. They ended up making something that I don't know if I've ever really seen a movie that's quite like this before. Yes, Jeff, I think some of that is because of the form. It's a very, very long story. And they found an interesting way into this story with the way that the perspective that they chose on, from what I've heard about the book, ends up spending a very long period of time and deals with a lot of historical points. It's incredibly authentic, incredibly well directed. The performances are fantastic. And yeah, because of the form, it kind of feels different than your typical movie. So I have, for me, 2 thumbs way up. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I think it probably is going to win Best Picture. I think we're going to see some best acting. I think Eric Roth, who I got to see speak after the movie.
None of the woke mob has anything to say about it.
I know. The screenwriter was there. And he said some really beautiful things. Somebody brought up at this little talk back that there were members of the Osage tribe who did say they wish it was from a different perspective. Screenwriter Eric Roth had a beautiful take on that while he respected it, they chose to tell it from this perspective, and that there were a lot of commercial and artistic reasons why that may have created a greater chance of success of people experiencing this movie. I'm going to leave you with this anecdote because I thought this was so fucking brilliant. He could not stop talking about Martin Scorsese and his collaboration with Martin Scorsese, who shares a screenwriting credit with him, because Eric Roth wrote this screenplay years before they got on board. Martin Scorsese said to him, as we start rewriting, we must have culpability throughout. We must be culpable the entire time while we're writing this. And I just thought that was brilliant direction from the jump. So in the spirit of that, the Osage member who spoke up at that premiere also said that they thought it was a very authentic portrayal. They were mostly just criticizing the choice to have that perspective. But I think in having Leonardo DiCaprio's character's perspective, we are all culpable. It's not the villains. We are the anti-heroes. And I think that made me feel even grosser while I was watching it. So I thought it was extremely effective. I'm sorry, I talked a lot. Brandon, what did you think?
No, I think
that's all the time we've got for that segment. So we'll,
I'm sorry. It's worth it though. For a 3-hour and 30-minute movie, that's probably proportionally correct. What do you think, Brandon?
I think that's really interesting what you were saying. And I will say that I didn't know any of the details of the production or any sort of woke controversies around. I knew nothing about that. I knew nothing about what kind of genre, how it was pitched, nothing. I went in as cold as possible. I saw the trailer and I tried, every time I saw it, I tried not to look at it because I did not want any sort of bias. I wanted to go in as cold as possible. And because of that, while I was watching it, I thought about none of that. I was completely absorbed in this incredible story.
Me too.
And honestly, I did not feel the runtime maybe until the last like 30 minutes, but that was just because I was kind of sleepy like already, and I'd just been sitting there a while. But like as far as like the storytelling, it's paced incredibly well.
Dude,
for a movie that long. And
are you listening, film fans? It's like Lawrence of Arabia. You don't feel the time.
Yeah.
Thelma Shoemaker cut the fucking shit out of this thing. It feels less than that.
Just quickly though, like because I don't have Twitter anymore. So what's the conspiracy that we're talking about? The upset?
There's no real big upset, but at the premiere, some members of the Osage community, somebody spoke on their behalf and said that apparently, and I'm just saying this secondhand from somebody who brought this up to Eric Roth in a Q&A. They said it's a shame, or some version of, they criticized, or it was a shame or whatever, that the perspective was not the Osage perspective. For one thing, it sort of is, because Molly is a big character. And I was just saying that on the other hand, they also said in the same breath or in the same comment that they still felt it was a very authentically told story. It was just a question of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even think there's that much controversy around it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was going to say, it's like you tell the story how the story is told. It's if you start messing with things like that, you may get something just not as good. Because I mean, he had a specific story he wanted to tell. I'm getting.
Dave, I'm so glad you said that, because Eric Roth's first response was, with respect to your question, I really hate that question, because you're asking an artist why they made a choice. That's none of your business, really. He almost was saying, like, we chose to do that. Yeah, and I hope if you're questioning the justification or whether or not we achieved the expression of that choice and that goal, that's a different conversation.
And also someone outside
but he
the
said
tribe,
respect,
it's not really their place to tell that story. So, some more Native American filmmakers.
Well, and also,
yeah,
in that DGA thing too, which I think, so this also happened during the pandemic, the rewriting of it with Scorsese. I think they were already working on it before, but we talked forever during the pandemic. We were like, there's so many people that are churning up butter right now, man. They're doing it right now. And they were, but especially once they got Leo on board, they were like, oh shit. And it really did. I mean, when you have Leo who say like, I would like to play this role, but I think I haven't seen this movie. But according to Scorsese, the one thing, not only having Leo, but even before he got Leo, to have Molly Burkhart say, just the one thing that you need to know is that Molly and Ernest were in love. And I think that also kind of gave permission to Scorsese and Eric Roth to sit there and say, okay, by using Leo's perspective, that is a culpable way, but also because he is in love, he is essentially in love with the tribe, which is not an excuse, right? But it's not one and then the other. There is an adjoinment that has happened in a way. So even though it is on this one side, it is adjoined to that, I think. So that might have been helpful.
Jeff, Dave,
cool.
You guys are going to be, what you're saying is like the treasure of this movie.
Exactly.
The way they navigate the storytelling of the conflict and lack of conflict, of the way this man is kind of playing both sides, almost inadvertently, out of this loyalty to his uncle, Bob De Niro, who is 100% pitch perfect in this fucking film. Jeff, you're gonna fucking have a panic attack. Bob De Niro gives one of the greatest.
Where has he been?
Of his career.
He's been doing comedy.
Did you think so?
I watched the Sleepy Bob movie this week that'll bring up at the end of the
Sleepy Bob.
Sleepy Bob.
That's so good. I mean, dude, right on the heels of The Irishman, these are two of his best performances.
Yeah, true.
It's incredible.
I mean, it's unbelievable. This
fantastic.
motherfucker is like 80 years old, and he's still getting better.
And he's still having children. It's wild.
You can't stop him.
Brandon, unless there's anything else you wanted to say about it.
I mean, I could say a lot more, but I will just say go fucking see it, dude. It is a tragic masterpiece. I mean,
see it and talk about it.
Only the best could have made a movie like this, and it shows.
I mean, he is still killing it, you guys.
Yeah,
he is still killing it. I just want to emphasize one more time, because I thought it was so important that you led with that in your review. Even if you have seen the trailer, which I go to see movies all the time, so I had seen the trailer, but I was trying to like not learn as much as I could about it. Congrats and silent applause to Apple. They did a brilliant job marketing this. You do not know anything about this story yet unless you've read the book. I've seen every trailer they released, and I still felt like I didn't really know what was happening until it was happening. So congrats on the marketing. You did a fantastic job. The filmmaking's amazing. I think it's I think it's a goddamn masterpiece, and I can't wait for everybody to go see it. Okay.
Wait, the last thing I want to say is I heard 2 critics say, I never thought I would hear this, but they were like, I'm glad I saw it a second time. 2 people both were like, yeah, me too. And they're like, I know it's long, but the second time I saw it, it was like, oh my God. So how wild is that?
That's almost a work day.
That's a work day with a movie. It feels like the kind of, you could definitely watch this movie
You almost go into overtime.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to take in. So I could see that.
All
but
right,
you need a day to recover from it too.
Shit.
That like rocked me.
When I was in the theater, I remember thinking like, I'm either never going to watch this movie again or I'm going to watch it like 20 more times.
Yeah.
Like as was happening, I was like, I might never, this is so intense, but also, anyway.
If there's never the lockdown, we're doing Irishman, beginning to end, whole thing. Let's go. We're getting our pods. All right. 1976 in film. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what the highest grossing movie of 1976 was?
Trying hard now.
That's right.
It has to be Rocky. It has to be Rocky.
Best Picture.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Best Picture and Best Director winner at the Oscars, Rocky. And no, Stallone did not direct the first movie, people.
Every time you do it, I'm going to
That's
fucking
right.
you.
We've all heard the stories about Stallone getting it made and having to sell his dog and then buy the dog back and all that shit. But that's right. John G. Avildsen did end up winning the Oscar for Best Director. And it made $55 million that year with re-releases. It has gone on to make over $200 million at the worldwide box office,
Did
including...
that win screenplay as well? Because that Rocky still gets referenced in...
No, it didn't. And no, because I'll tell you...
screenwriting courses.
No, but I'll tell you...
The Golden Child.
Well, if you want to jump ahead to that, 2 teeny tiny films called Network and All the President's Men ended up winning Oscars for screenwriting that year. So steep competition.
2 of the greatest screenplay writers of all time up against a newcomer. Yeah, he probably would have won otherwise, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think he had a chance in the acting category. Wasn't nominated, but Peter Finch, Faye Dunaway, and Beatrice Straight, all 3 came from Network. And then Jason Robards won for All the President's Men. Again, those 2 movies cleaned up at the Oscars. But 3 Oscar winners for the same movie in the acting categories. It's only happened one time before. Anybody know what movie it was?
Ooh.
It wasn't fucking Avatar.
Avatar. Dave, shut up. Silence? The Andrew Garfield movie?
No.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs. No supporting.
Because of the supporting? We need a supporting in there?
Nope. And the funny thing about the answer to this is that it's... There's a twist.
Give me the year.
Ooh.
This will be fun. If you don't know it, it's fine. Sorry.
1951. 1952.
You got me.
There.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's a Streetcar Named Desire, and Marlon Brando's the one who didn't win.
Wow.
So, okay, we're back to 1976. So Rocky, this is the 3rd United Artists film to win in a row.
Doing good.
After
the other 2, do you know them? Yeah.
Marathon Man and did Marathon Man win? I wrote them down somewhere. Shit, I'm going through my notes. Fuck. I'll find it. You guys fuck yourself. Okay, cool. What else? Okay, so here's the top 10. Are you ready? Rocky number 1. A Star Is Born number 2. That's right. That is the Barbra Streisand, Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, that's like
movie,
the first incarnation of it, right?
That's right.
Not the 5th.
First of many.
That's right. King Kong remake.
It's the second incarnation.
It's the second. The first one's from Judy Garland.
Judy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought she was going to win the Oscar, and Groucho Marx is so
actually
fucking.
A silent film version.
Jesus.
Third.
No,
It's a silent musical.
Make it
I
stop.
don't know if I should buzz you or not. Okay, King Kong was number 3. You got to give it up. Silver Streak was number 4 according to this list here. All the President's Men, The Omen, Bad News Bears, The Enforcer, In Search of Noah's Ark, and then Midway came in. There's different lists though. So with re-releases and stuff, the Bad News Bears sneaks its way in. That's another really fun movie. And this fucking movie called To Fly somehow got on here. To Fly with an exclamation point. And I looked it up. It's some bullshit like early IMAX experiment that was like in parks and shit. And somehow it like ran in some theater for ages and ages and ages. I'm sure you did because, you know, you have the time period here. So like it just like kept running forever and it was like $1
Scared the fuck
a ticket.
out of me, man. They put the camera was on the front of what you thought was a car because they showed a car and it's speeding across a field pointing at the ground, and it turns out it wasn't a car, it was a fucking hang glider. It went straight over the edge of a cliff in IMAX.
Yeah.
And dude,
I'm sure Walt Disney's like Epcot boner just got like just like right, that's it. It just happened. But yeah, it's like it just went right through the cracks.
The ice is cracking.
It's a 27-minute IMAX movie that cost $500,000. Okay, anyway, so that's in the list. Other notable things from 1976. All right, but all the way, just a spot. Palme d'Or winner Taxi Driver was not in the top 10. It didn't even really make that much money in 1976. And Network obviously wasn't in the top 10 either. And those probably the two, besides Rocky, the movies that have endured the most. Not that A Star Is Born and The Omen are slouches. A couple other fun things here. The Rocky Horror Picture Show was officially re-released as a midnight movie for the first time here in 1976.
Yep. And it never stopped.
At what is now the IFC Center in Greenwich Village. Been there a lot. It's still just as dirty as it was then, I imagine. Alfred Hitchcock and John Wayne both had their last films come out this year. Michael Eisner became the CEO of Paramount Pictures, and thus his reign of terror began. And then Bound of Glory debuted, and it was the first motion picture in which the inventor-operator used a Steadicam. However, it was the third to be released because Marathon Man and Rocky also used the Steadicam, but they filmed their movies later. But yes, the Rocky Steadicam was a bigger deal than we give it credit for. And then other movies that came out. Carrie, Logan's Run, The Outlaw, Jesse Wales, that's Clint Eastwood. And then a couple things about the year 1976. Obviously, Jimmy Carter beats Gerald Ford and would become president next year. Songs in the Key of Life comes out. Bruce Jenner wins gold at the decathlon. Apple is founded. The $2 bill is reintroduced. And the first class of women graduated at the Naval Academy. 1976.
I think the only other one I would call out is Bugsy Malone.
Oh my God, I saw that.
Shout out to Jack.
Yeah, shout out to the brother-in-law. It's like one of his favorite movies. Kids in like a... Is it a musical?
I think so.
I don't think it's a musical. I think it's a straight drama.
Like gangsters as though they were like adults, but
if there's
kids.
A musical, I don't remember any of the songs because I saw this several times when I was a kid.
It's very good. And just a little movie that I think really deserves a little bit of limelight. It just doesn't get talked about enough. It's a little film called Stay Hungry.
Jesus Christ. Watch the Arnold documentary. You'll learn about it.
And I just
the worst part is Robert Englund released a speech of Robert Englund saying how he thought it was going to be the turning point for everyone. It was going to be the best thing ever, and it's a great film and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, oh man, I like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Never meet your heroes.
Uncle of the makeup person I was in the car with last week.
Right.
Remember me telling you that, Dave?
I just also want to say I love The Omen. I just want to say I love The Omen as a movie. Fuck
The Omen. I know you love The
forever.
Omen. Dave loves Carrie. And I'll call out John Cassavetes released a film this year called The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which is just another Cassavetes masterpiece.
Oddly specific.
Right.
Didn't you shout out Cassavetes last time I was on? I think you did.
What year was that?
That would
1985?
I think it was for Bonnie and Clyde. He did something that year.
Cassavetes. Shadows.
Yeah.
It was just... It was. I think he had released Shadows.
John knows your parents are actually going to listen to this episode, and he wants to make sure they know they're getting a good education at the University of Southern
I wish
California.
we talked about Cassavetes at USC. All right.
All right. Are you ready?
Actually, it's funny. I wanted to say earlier, but quick story. The USC thing that you keep drawing, which is fun. I had to do a shoot, and I had to hire a new AC because, as you know, my favorite AC moved to LA and never came back. And so I was going through the resumes, and this one woman on the bottom of her resume, like it listed all this like experience on the films and stuff. And at the bottom, it just has taken every camera track in the NYC Film Studies offers. And I'm like, if that's not a fucking mic drop at the bottom of your resume, like what it was like, she basically just went in. I'm taking all your camera tracks and took every single camera track they offered.
Yeah,
like that's a great flex at the end. Yeah,
New York Film. You said
it was the
NYU.
Yeah, it was the NYU film.
Is that the
Hey,
Goodwill?
man.
Is that the Goodwill Hunting? Hey, just so you know, your whole education could be summed up with a couple late fees at the local library. Is that like basically that version of that line?
It is basically the version of that line.
All right, are you ready to?
The schools are hard. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Ready to talk about a movie that a grown man slaps a child across the face in? Let's go, people. Let's do it.
I mean, we've already talked about one of those. Oh no, he spanked the fuck out of him. That's right.
All right, guys. We're talking about
you filthy little devil, whatever he said.
One step
filthy
above
little
Arnold
brat.
punching a camel. Yeah.
filthy little brat. Also, there's a lot we can say about Roman Polanski, but one thing we can all agree on is he sucks at pouring a beer. Holy shit, that was the worst fucking beer.
He sucks at a lot of things, but
okay. So easing into this here kind of thing. Okay. I think this is one where we're just going to talk about the art, not the man. We know he's problematic, and there's probably people out there that don't want us to talk about him. Let's just go through. He did a million short movies in the early 60s. Early 60s.
If you read between the lines, Jeff said fucking criminal there.
Yeah.
So
he somehow survived the Holocaust, even though he was in a ghetto. And his parents were taken away, and he bounced around, and anyway, no excuse, but just what a weird life. He started out in Poland, he started making shorts there, then he moved to France, made some movies, and then ultimately England, and eventually America before he had to bounce the fuck out for reasons that I think we all know. But
if anyone doesn't know, just search Roman Polanski and 13. You'll be fine.
Dude,
no,
my
you won't
dog
be
is going
fine.
nuts.
Brace
Hold on a
yourself.
second.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
that did happen after this movie, but that doesn't necessarily make it.
John, was it your
right
place
after this
someone
movie.
was moving furniture like a second ago? It sounded
I thought you were
like
gonna
That
say,
was mine.
yeah.
It was I thought you were gonna
Very apropos of this movie, my neighbors.
Right?
I'll get into it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. So here's how this goes. Again, a lot of shorts, and he had done a couple features, including Knife in the Water and something else. Honestly, I never heard of. I'm reading the fucking Wikipedia or the IMDb. But eventually does Repulsion, which really breaks him off about a girl with like sex dreams. I don't know how this works in 1965 when you have a movie like that where somebody who's like,
What sex dreams?
but she's dreaming about getting like sexually assaulted and stuff. Again, European, and maybe because it's from Roman Polanski, we know who he is now. It's not great to talk about, but that kind of broke him in. And then he does this movie called Cul-de-sac. So that's 65, then 66. The Fearless Vampire Killer 67, Rosemary's Baby 68. So that's where international fame and all this stuff came. But every year he's cranking out good movies. He doesn't. Macbeth.
Rosemary's Baby has such a creep factor. The new series of like American Horror Story is kind of inspired by it.
As I've heard, yeah. Macbeth, yada, yada, yada. He does this movie called What? And then Chinatown in 1974. So, you have Rosemary's Baby in Chinatown. He's already basically an all-timer at that point. And then this is the movie he does next before he does Tess and Pirates and Frantic, et cetera, all the way up to The Pianist, which he won an Oscar for. And people keep working with him. It's like the Woody Allen thing. It's like you say, we know the stories, we know this stuff, but people just keep working with him. So it's like, well, anyway.
It's
so
amazing
this is the movie
what
he
you
makes.
put blinders onto.
This is the movie. And also, we should also mention the Sharon Tate thing. Sharon Tate was pregnant. They were married. And, the Manson thing happened. And Roman Polanski was a part of that in 1969. So that predates Chinatown and The Tenant. So obviously, there's a cynicism, fucked up person. Anyway, let's go on with talking about The Tenant and why we chose it. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to this before we start talking about The Tenant?
No, we can talk about the movie.
No.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The
The movie
Tenant,
that was made by a lot of people.
I'm gonna just read the very, very brief IMDb description of The Tenant, 1976. And again, there were high hopes of this after Chinatown.
Yeah.
A bureaucrat, which apparently is a fancy word for anybody who has any government job ever, because he's a file clerk, which is no disrespect to file clerks, but it says a bureaucrat. It's like, oh, a member of the aristocracy. Not in this movie. A bureaucrat rents a Paris apartment where he finds himself drawn into a rabbit hole of dangerous paranoia. Directed by Roman Polanski, writers Roland Topper, who I believe wrote the book, Gerard Brach, Roman Polanski, and it stars him. He cast himself as a short king of 5'3", a Polish person who now has French citizenship, very autobiographical. I really would like to know what you guys think this movie's about, because obviously he wrote himself into this movie after Chinatown. I'm very curious as to why, and not in America. What do you guys think? What'd you feel? Spoiler-free initial reactions. What'd you think of The Tenant?
I'll go first.
Shocked. I'm kidding.
Yeah, sure. I pushed for this, so I'll fall on the sword if you guys didn't like it, but fucking loved this movie.
Roger Ebert gave it 1 star. I can't. I'm so happy. This is great. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was harsh on it, man.
Me.
He was there. Apparently at the press screening, everyone was running out. One guy ended up getting pushed through a window because they were trying to get to the presser so fast after the screening of the film. And he's like, I don't know why. That was the exact review he gave it.
He said, it's a wonder nobody was killed in the rush to get out of the theater.
Wow.
Jesus.
Such a popular.
Keep telling us about why you like. He also didn't think Jim Carrey was good, so it happens. Okay.
Not everyone makes good choices.
I mean, this is if anyone has seen Rosemary's Baby and Repulsion, I mean, Polanski does really enjoy psychological descents and using a device of gaslighting from the environment and the people around a protagonist until they kind of suffocate in their descent, convinced that the world is falling down around them, which is probably what it feels like to go insane. I mean, we can't say that with any authority necessarily, but I've at least seen it depicted very successfully by him and others in film. And I thought this was another pretty strong expression of that. Initially, when I saw, that he was in it, and he's acted a bunch, so it's not like Polanski never acts. Like, he does it quite a bit. But initially I was like, oh, I hope he can bring it. And I thought ultimately by the end, I really thought he brought it. I was pretty convinced and moved by the way he underplayed a lot of moments that I think a lot of actors would have chewed up. And when he really did need to be more melodramatic and heavy and committed in later parts of the film, I thought he really delivered. God, I know it's complicated to speak about him, but I just think he's so good. He's such a master with how to move the camera and how to simply tell stories effectively to create tension and suspense, psychologically for the viewer, but also around a protagonist. It's just so incredibly effective, especially with a story that is so simply told. This really does just very simply follow the single perspective of this person who moves into a new apartment. That's it. Like, every time I see people pull off stories like this, I'm always so jealous. You sit down and you're trying to write new ideas and stuff, and you think you need to do this and that and all these big things to tell a very successful movie. And then you see something like this and you're like, oh yeah. Like, you'll just see people prove you wrong, and you're just like, well, he did it again. He did it simply. There's a bunch of fun, not a bunch, but there's very effective uses of technical production design to help that he did in Repulsion with building certain set pieces to different scales to try to mess with just the way certain things are perceived. And I also want to shout out, because I can't say enough about him, anyone who has ever heard of, I'm sure you have not heard of him, the cinematographer Sven Nykvist, who filmed this. He filmed a lot for Ingmar Bergman. He filmed for Andrei Tarkovsky. He filmed for Roman Polanski. He filmed
this one. He was really let off the chain, though. This was.
I mean, he was. I mean, he's a fucking genius. And again, just the way they move the camera, the movement was not simple. There was a lot of times where there was complicated movement in a enclosed space. So I don't want to say it was simple. I don't want to be reductive, but it was very effective in how they used an enclosed single location. So I want to give him as much credit as humanly possible, because I thought it was shot so well. There's a very specific moment that's really small, and I'm excited to talk about it with you, Dave, where they establish the heightened, the most, I think the midpoint where he really makes the turn into full on crazy when he wakes up sweaty. And they show him coming out of the bathroom, the way the camera picks him up on a very, almost like it's probably an 18 millimeter lens, and he's moving towards his apartment, and it's fisheye just enough, going from there to transition into his apartment with the large scale apartment set. It was just, that is technical. It's so technical. That's planned ahead of time. It was perfectly executed. It's so subtle, most people probably wouldn't even notice it. I don't know, you guys. I felt like I was in the hands of an absolute master modern Hitchcock. I don't know what to tell you. I just feel like he nailed it. And he fucking brought it with the acting.
Who's next?
I'll go next. I think you're going to hear me say a lot of the same things I said before about Killers of the Flower Moon. I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about it. I had apparently put it on a list of movies that I wanted to see years ago and hadn't thought about it since then until it was brought up for this podcast. And I didn't know that was Roman Polanski in the lead role. I knew it was his film, and that was it. I didn't even know, like, I knew the year, but I didn't know the timeline before, after Chinatown, nothing. So I went in, I didn't know it was supposed to have a horror bent to it, because it really does not start that way. I had no idea what to expect. And I think that's the way to go into this.
So stop listening now.
Yeah. Pause right there. Go watch it. The descent that John is talking about is it's not linear. It's not a steady build. It kind of comes and goes, and it makes you start to question, what am I seeing? Am I seeing some of these things? Am I like adding to it? Or is it just so subtle, the kinds of stuff that you're talking about technically? They start to mess with you as well. Because I kind of didn't think this was going to turn into something as horrific as it did. And so I feel like it started to like make me feel like I was going insane. It's so effective. And it's so interesting to learn that this is the same guy that did Tarkovsky's movies, because I was going to liken it to the feeling that I got when I was watched something like Stalker or Mirror, where it's like you're sitting there questioning, what the fuck is happening? Like, this is brilliant, obviously, but I don't know what's happening. And it's like that in and of itself is terrifying. So it's like a whole new way to make you feel the horror of something that's very realistic, but turns out to be very psychotic in its nature. So all that to say, it was fucking brilliant. It looked great. It sounded great. The score is so haunting.
Oh God, the score is so good, dude.
Is incredible. I will point out that this movie, I learned this recently. This movie is the theme, the main theme that you hear at the beginning in the credits, as it's kind of giving you the overture. It was played on a glass harmonium. I can't remember the name. This instrument, harmonium. Thank you. This instrument was created by none other than Ben Franklin, and it's essentially like wine glasses stacked inside each other that you can play almost like a keyboard. So it creates that same sound that you get when you run your finger along like a wine glass to get that tone, but you can play a full thing. Anyway, it had gone out of fashion entirely, and then it was used in this movie, performed by the only person alive who still knew how to play it. And then in the 80s, had a huge resurgence. It was used in all sorts of compositions, popular and otherwise, afterwards. So I thought it was fascinating, and it was used to amazing effect in this movie. And
when
just
it
like
opened
every
with
other,
with the Dies Irae theme, did you think, wow, this movie's going to end well?
that never goes in a good direction. No. I can't say enough good things about it. I mean,
that theme, it's right in the beginning, and it's like, well, we're going to hell. We're going right to hell.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It's freaking incredible. Every detail of it is well thought out, well executed. Amazing.
What do you guys think? Is it 2 against 2, or what do we got?
2 against 2. We're not doing. Is it really that bad?
I will say, the first 5 minutes of this is exactly like trying to find an apartment in New York City. Like, you have to bribe the broker. You go in the bathroom somewhere down the hall. It's What
if I give you 4,000?
Yeah, right. It's a bidding war all of a sudden.
Don't be insulted.
4,000 if I get half.
Yeah. I will agree though. The cinematography in this is great. There are so many, like, I want to say tricks with the equipment they had, because this was a lot lower budget than I think they were used to working with, and also they just brought in the the crane dolly that they were using as well. So like you can see at one point where they use it, where it comes through a door and then around pivots around the door. But like that opening shot, I had to rewind a couple of times where someone changes in the window, and I'm like, is that reprojection? Is that a mirror? What the fuck did they just do there? So that piqued my interest, and then it just lost it. The it didn't get me back until things started to go off the rails, and by that point it was too late, and it just became kind of comical. The guts of this film is nothing. There's nothing in there apart from a few cool shots. There's like the writing is so weak it's almost laughable. The dialogue is terrible. It didn't get me.
Yeah,
someone's on it. It didn't get me at all.
Wow.
But there are some scenes that I like. That's the thing. Hidden in the middle, there's little gems where there's like a scene that really works. But like by the end of it, when he's like, because we know he takes a trip into insanity. So by that point, he's so melodramatic. The only thing that would have topped it off for me was him screaming, "You're tearing me apart!" And it just, yeah, it just became a joke by the end of it.
Yeah,
I did not enjoy the way like this ended. I thought it was cheap.
Do you feel the same? I'm just curious because this would probably clarify some perspective on it. Do you feel the same way about Rosemary's Baby? Because there is like an element of
not at
camp to both of these. I think
Rosemary's Baby has this sense of creeping dread that they play with perfectly. To be honest, I think this would have worked better if when they like, because I mean I need to turn spoilers on before I go any further. So let's hear from Jeff first, and I'll answer that question in a minute.
The spoilers is going to be so fun for this episode. Let me tell you how I saw this movie first. I think that's important.
As the director intended.
I had to travel this weekend, and I have a very big iPad. I have a brand new 12.9 inch iPad Pro. It's fucking awesome. I have noise canceling headphones. I'm wearing them now.
Hey, Apple, you want to sponsor this podcast?
I was traveling. So I was like, I'm going to just fucking do it. I'm going to watch it on this plane, and it's going to fuck me up because I'm going to be a million feet in the air, and I'm going to be like in this movie while everybody is asleep around me, and it's a chiller thriller, and I'm stuck on this fucking seat for the next 2 hours. I thought it would be fun.
Turns out you had two Karens, and the flight was scarier than the film.
Dave, I'm in the middle of Actually, I was the Karen in the first flight because I talked the whole flight there with my friend that was next to me. It was just talked the whole way, and I felt a little bad. I was talking very quietly, which is not good when you're going to perform, by the way. So anyway, I watched it this morning. I woke up at 4:40 a.m. to catch a 6:07 a.m. flight, and I watched it on that 6:07 a.m. flight. That's for damn sure. So not the evening flight on Friday that I was planning on doing it, but on the 6:07 flight, everybody was asleep. But wow. You know what's funny? I paused to take a nap in this, and it's just because I was on a 6:07 flight, and I dreamed inspired dreams about this the whole time. So I'm saying that like I know I took a nap in the middle of this movie, but like, guys, I'm on a plane and I'm taking a nap in the middle of this movie, and I went right back into it. Of course, I'm telling you, my dreams were fucked up because of this movie. This movie definitely stayed with me. The music for sure. So I think a contemporary audience would just say it's slow. I kind of agree with Dave as far as like the writing, and some scenes did seem random. But here's one thing that I thought, and I admit when I say this, I know I sound like the time period of I am watching this. The whole time I was like, what is this about? Because Roman Polanski made this movie after Chinatown. He could do whatever he wants. And he cast himself in this movie as a Pole living in France, and everybody is trying to get him out. And the only other person he can relate to is the mother, and she's also an outsider. She's not French. She's also Polish, Russian. She's probably an Eastern European Jew, maybe Central European Jew. So and this comes up. This is in the writing, so I don't want to give too much away as far as that. We can talk more about that with spoilers. But the whole time I'm like, I can tell this is a personal movie, and regardless of the little things here and there, I was hooked the whole time. Because that build takes a long time. The spiral, whatever you want to call it, it takes a really long time. You have to be patient. But I love movies of the 70s. I love when actors feel like they can bump into something, look at it, and then look back up and keep going. Whereas I think movies and TV shows now are so fucking clean that it's like they're showing me everything. There's no room to breathe in anything compared to the 70s. I think the 70s is the best era for film, acting-wise, directing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a lot of reason that Chinatown, The Godfather, Star Wars, Jaws, Mean Streets. I think there's a reason that all these movies came out the same decade, Dog Day, et cetera. But this got me. I still think there were some scenes where I was like, interesting, weird. I don't know about that. And there's scenes that I forgot in hindsight, but there's so much that's going to stay with me that I give this a full endorsement.
Yeah. The experience overall is still...
And the ending. I love the ending. Dave, I know, I get it. I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'll just say this, because it's not a spoiler. I'll just say, end. End now. End right now. End.
Yeah.
And they did it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was saying it about 2 minutes before you were.
Buzz that motherfucker.
The ending was crazy.
All right, we're gonna go to.
Let's turn on spoilers. We could talk about it. Yeah,
spoilers are going on.
If you haven't seen this yet and you're just listening, thank you. That's really kind. But please watch this movie. It's really fucking interesting. It's really interesting. And it really beckons. If you made Chinatown, the next movie you make, I mean, come on, you could do anything, right? Like, it's so interesting.
I mean, yeah, but Mike Myers made Austin Powers and followed that up with The Love Guru, and look what happened.
You love the
same
Love
thing.
He didn't direct it. He didn't write it. And Austin Powers is in Chinatown. I mean, like, there's a reason. After The Godfather,
really
it's The Conversation and Apocalypse Now. You know, like after Star Wars, it's okay. The second Star Wars, but you know, like after Mean Streets, it's Taxi Driver. Like, come on, there's a pattern.
I know what you're saying, but I also feel like I didn't carry that into this movie, and I think just thinking about his filmography leading up to Chinatown and after Chinatown for the most part, I think the bulk of his work is not fixated on larger themes. I think because he concentrates on or larger issues, I think because he concentrates on very intimate stories that are usually very psychological, there's so much room for critics and scholars to pull larger themes of experience and, you know, compare them to might be what be happening in different things of the world. But I feel like Chinatown was actually the biggest coincidence of him actually making a movie that was grounded in a very real issue. He didn't really, up until that point, he didn't really try to tell stories that were literal metaphors or allegory or literally dealing with those kinds of subject matter.
So we're in France, we're in Paris, and everybody has an American English accent.
Oh yeah, it's the most multicultural fucking Paris I've ever seen.
Except multicultural, it's American. It's the most American Paris I've ever seen. They're smoking Marlboros. Obviously, this means something. And obviously, the only other person that's getting kicked out of a building, the only other person that he can relate to in a way, speaks the same language of him, which is Polish. Obviously, she, you know, like you don't. So, would you think these were just thrown in for? That's not the central theme. Do you think that's not something to pull? Like, obviously, a film scholar should jump at that. I'm not saying I'm a film scholar because I did. But I was sitting there, I was like, what is her accent? And I'm like, wait, why is nobody speaking French except for like one person?
The question to be asked is, was he seeing her at all as she really was? Because when he talks to the woman who brings the petition over, she says, no, she has a son. So was he seeing what his mind was telling him to see, and that woman never existed?
But why was the person that never existed his accent?
Because it was a creation of his own mind.
Dude, it's a good question, but I think that question exists more in film criticism than it does in the experiencing of watching it. I feel like if you allow yourself to just like feel what happens to you when you're in his perspective, I think that's the best way to squeeze all the juice from the experience. You're probably right, dude. He's really intelligent. I'm sure he did all those things for a reason and cast all those people for a reason. But I don't know if those reasons should intellectually, or excuse me, I don't know if they should emotionally affect your watch. I think intellectually, there's probably a lot to be said about immigration and identity of citizenship in Europe, especially like those identity issues.
The most counterfeitable papers I've ever seen, by the way. Did he staple that picture on that paper?
I did write a note. It's like sometimes a person can be so deep in their thought and meaning that they forget other people have to watch their film as well. And I'm wondering, does a lot of the deep things that he's put in this just skate by people who...
But I'm saying I don't think they need to. I was just about to say, I think a better question to ask is, could this story exist anywhere? And for me, it could. I think that this premise of being gaslit into thinking that this
gaslighting for sure,
tenant is, you know, this whole world is against you, and it doesn't really matter what their, you know, what their accents are, or their motivations are. I think this story could exist anywhere, and that's for me why I was really clinging to it. I was like,
he wasn't
just
gaslit.
The psychology of it.
That was his insanity. Like it was his paranoia. There was no gaslighting. He was seeing it. They weren't doing it. It was his paranoia that was.
I guess we can
that.
say that based on the ending, but when you're watching it, you don't necessarily know.
Well, that's the thing. That was one of the things I was like. I felt like they did this backwards because when they revealed it, like you get this first thing where the woman tries to strangle him in the hallway, and it cuts to a shot of him and no one's there, and they kind of gave the gag away right there and then. I feel like it would have been. I would have enjoyed it more if you didn't know which way it was going the whole way through. It's like, is he seeing this or is it like, is it real? Is it not?
Even at that point, I still wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't sure if that was like, is this a ghost story? Like what? I don't think they had given us enough like of a sense of what the rules were for this reality. Like no one, that woman in particular was never seen by anyone else in his presence. Like so I thought maybe this is supposed to be like, he's in a fucking haunted apartment. And this is like a haunting. I mean, coming off of Rosemary's Baby, I who knows? I mean, so I guess at that point, I still wasn't sure if it was him or if it was his environment.
Then that might be the hidden genius of this, that we can take three different perspectives away completely like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which is probably like how masterful is that we can all agree that we witnessed or hopefully experienced some kind of a person going through a psychological breaking point, but the actual functioning of that or motivation for that, you can't really put a pin or put your finger on it. It could have been all of these things, but I still felt like he effectively like opened the door for you to have your experience with him. And Dave, it makes me think about cinematography, the language of playing with subjectivity versus objectivity, with how they started, like starting with that point when the woman strangling him in the hallway, there's nobody there. I feel like the way they started straddling that in terms of the way they filmed certain sequences moving forward, by the time we got to the end, where you're saying you experienced it as though when I was outside of it and I saw what the tenants were seeing, the fellow tenants, I felt like that was the objective truth. I wasn't sure about that because I feel like they had done a good job with the subjectivity of me thinking, I don't know if that objective truth is just his doubt in his own truth. Like he was like thinking that maybe there's, I don't know.
The one thought I had, and it comes back to an episode we did recently, or a couple of months ago. How much did this movie influence Beau is Afraid?
Sure.
Because I was definitely drawing some parallels.
Too. I thought Ari Aster. Actually, for me, like Midsommar and even Hereditary, just like that, like, is this really happening kind of thing?
Yeah.
I was thinking of that. I didn't want to bring it up, but I was thinking of that in a way where I was like, why am I having so much more fun watching this? I was thinking about my complaint about his movies and why I felt like there was a catharsis and a joy to getting to watch this play out that I have never experienced in Ari Aster's films. No offense to the modern master. There was almost like an absurdity. I always feel like I'm allowed to smile when I'm watching Polanski. And I feel the opposite of that when I'm watching.
There is some black comedy stuff in here. There's some black comedy stuff.
I feel like Polanski doesn't like get someone to absolutely destroy themselves on camera once every film like Ari Aster does.
Yeah.
But it's kind of his thing. It's like, you just have a complete fucking meltdown on camera, will you?
I know what you mean there. I think it's a good comparison. I thought about it. I think all four of us thought about it at one point consciously while we were watching it. I mean, he's probably the modern master at the deconstruction of psychology that is if the end point is fear and psychosis or doubt or suicide or I don't know. I mean, I know what you guys are. I just wanted to point out.
When we got to the point where he started putting on the stockings, I'm like, all right, we're introducing gender identity now. Like, and we're like 90 minutes in, and then I realized what they were going for, and it was like, okay,
that wasn't a thing then, though. You know what I mean? Like, we have to remember what that was at the time, and
drag was fine.
That was actually the point narratively that I wanted to ask you guys about. That was the moment where I really just threw my hands up because I wasn't quite sure how he got from where he was before that.
When he got the shoes, the shoes came in.
Where he was like, "You won't beat me," and he decided to dress up of his own accord. It wasn't like they made him do it. No. And at that point,
but he thought they did.
And
but I guess,
he thought they were turning him into her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he did. I don't know if he did by that point, though. I don't know if he did.
He wakes up and he realizes I've put on some makeup, And he's thinking, oh, they're making me do this. Like they're literally like,
torn
I'm
out my
like
own
hypnotized
tooth.
in the middle of the night. And his answer was, I'll beat them at their own game. I'll fucking go out and get the.
That was a little strange. It was a little strange, yes.
But I'm saying in a good way though. I knew I was in the hands of a master, because at that point I don't think it made sense to me. Not that it had to make sense yet, but that was the first time where I realized this is no longer making sense, and I don't care.
That was
I
the
still
first
feel like
point. That it
was
didn't make
for
sense
me anyway. It was for me where I felt like he was kind of, whether or not you agree with the writing of it, he was kind of declaring what was and wasn't making sense up until that point to himself, to friends. There's something happening in my apartment. There are people. He was saying things that were happening.
Dude,
he was making observations out loud.
This sets up the biggest mystery very early on. Why did he tell her he had a phone call to make when he really just had to take a piss?
It's actually a good point.
Because I just remembered I have to make a phone call, and then walks right past the phone to take a piss. I'm like, is that meant to be some sort of hang up, or like I'm not making phone gags? It's a very subtle nod. He couldn't tell this woman he was going to take a piss. Had to tell her.
Did anybody else think that when the first few times he was seeing the people in the restroom across the courtyard, that they were paintings? They were so still.
Yeah,
there was a part of me that
the paintings in where? Wait, in the apartment.
In the bathroom
the
across
few
from
times
his.
that he saw people
from his
standing totally still.
Oh yeah, that was
That one, the first time it got me, when he was moving the armoire, and so the second time he saw the person, I was like, "That's a painting," and it still worked for me. Like, yeah, that's how good the movie. I was like, I'm not even sure if there was anybody in there or not, or if it was just like the idea of like what happened. I don't know, images inside your mind's eye, but
much like most of the movie, especially up until like the last 20 minutes, I truly didn't know what to think. And I think that's why I enjoyed this so much, is so many of the Descent into Madness movies, you can see the breadcrumbs being laid out for you and they're very digestible. And you're like, yeah, this is a point where someone is going to tell this main character that didn't actually happen, and they're going to struggle with it. And you can really like digest it as a viewer.
See, that's
I did not feel that way about this one.
As soon as they went for that shot where her hands were around his throat and then she wasn't there, my brain locks straight onto all of this, like the members of the building trying to get him is in his head. It's all paranoia.
It became concrete for you at that moment.
None of it is actually happening. He just thinks it is. And I mean, who hasn't fallen for that sort of shit? Like, my workplace is out to get me or whatever. And you build up this whole mythology, and then, eventually you get taken to HR for punching someone, and they're like, no, we didn't even think about you. Sorry, I've said too much.
The people in the car who hit him did seem pretty nice. They seemed very nice.
Yeah.
I love how they chose someone that looked pretty similar to his landlord for that person. So that's the kind of thing I was talking about, where even I was like, wait, is that actually him? And it kept going back and forth. I think there was enough subtlety for me to where I was questioning it, and I didn't feel like I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be. And I think that's why I enjoyed this.
And with the wife, and the wife too.
Same, yeah. Agree. And I think part of that, and I'm a big proponent of going into movies as cold as possible. I did not know this was a Descent into Madness movie. I really didn't know what this was going to be. And I feel like because of that, they did such a subtle job with some of it, where like when he first finds the tooth in the wall.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 45 minutes of the film, they did no job at all. There's no Descent into Madness there. That's just slice of life.
And that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. You're right.
Because so when it happens, this thing goes off the rails at like just after the midpoint, and it goes off the rails off a fucking cliff. Of what the fuck is now going on?
Would you guys have put the tooth back in the wall?
Nah.
That might be the beginning of his madness.
That was a strange choice.
It's like, no, okay, wait. If we're going to talk about strange choices, I don't have much experience in Europe, but I'm pretty sure it's creepy as fuck universally going to visit the comatose former tenant of the apartment of you're about to rent.
Well,
when you're not even related to it. Like, he's walked into this hospital with this woman to see if she might die.
we don't know if she's
straight up. There's something not right there.
I don't know if they say, but I'm sure
she was in a coma till the day before. They say that.
Then yeah, that's a little strange. But it is weird that he rented the apartment after. No, he rented the apartment before.
No, he inspected the apartment and then went to see her to see what her condition was, and then she died, and he got the apartment.
Yeah,
that was the general order of things.
Right.
But that brings me round to that shot in the hospital. And I know I bagged this out at the start, but like I said, there are some gems hidden in there. It's not easy to communicate like extreme pain with just a shot. But that woman wrapped up, the actor wrapped up in all the bandages.
Oh yeah,
dude, they were hurting. And it came across loud and clear. And then considering where it swung to at the end, I was like, are we in a fucking Star Trek time loop? But yeah, it's like I did like that little bookend. But again,
fucking brilliant.
Dude, that scream was terrifying.
Yeah, when she starts, I literally looked at Elizabeth and I was like, that's my kind of filmmaking. And then it ends with, I mean, it's just like,
well, it has to, because this is the thing. In the Prestige, where it's like, well, we can see what it's like when Hugh Jackman dies, but then there's a new Hugh Jackman, but that Hugh Jackman's dead. Hugh Jackman dies every time. And so I'm glad they ended it there, because if I saw what happened after, I'd be like, that's bullshit, because this person I've been following dies there, realizes there's a loop, and there's nothing they can do to do anything about it. It's just going to be a loop, which is another reason that I'm like, why? What was he going for? Because it's possible
fucking Donnie Darko'd us at the end. Well, actually, Donnie Darko took that.
Yeah.
Okay, the way it reads, to be fair to you all, the way it reads is he just decided he wanted to do a movie about paranoia, and all this other shit may have been, well, what do I got? It's like, well, I know this paranoia, I know that paranoia, everybody knows this paranoia, so let's just do this and turn it into this paranoia story.
I mean,
it's
again,
very possible that that's what this was. However, it's also possible that it's not. So even though what we saw on the screen is probably just, let's just do paranoia that leads to spiraling into death. And
well, again, by that point, he'd had a full break. So when he's laying there all bandaged up in the fucking hospital, he's seeing himself from the earlier scene, but there's nothing there.
I guess
unless he's trying to make a bigger point that wasn't as much a part of our journey as it probably should have been.
I think if he had made a bigger point, though, it would have been. I guess I'm still saying that the way to get to the bigger point is through the smaller experience. I think it always is.
But it could have been more specific. Because what we're all saying is it's so universal that it just wasn't probably specific enough, that it was kind of general, and he was kind of Shaun of the Deading some scenes, which is great. A lot of those, like, oh, this is happening. Oh, that. Oh, this. Oh, somebody picked up the garbage on the way. Oh, I like shoes now. Like, but there's not like, the through line isn't easy to thread.
Well, so it's the funny thing is, like, we're sitting here, four of us are sitting here trying to make sense out of an insanity.
I'm saying it. Yeah. I'm saying it worked. The through line wasn't the stuff. The through line wasn't the specific in the scene, but the character itself was just an observer. So
you think he was? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The character was an observer, even though the movie was about the character, and maybe that's a point that was made, but whatever. It fucking worked. Maybe I had nightmares on the plane, so you guys fuck yourself.
What on that note? What do you guys think was the scariest moment? I'll tell you mine. When after he jumps out the window and he's backing away as the people, as what he sees, the tongue, and that from that lady.
Yeah.
Holy
she has snake eyes too.
Yeah.
How did they do that? Yeah, I rewound that. That was so scary.
Was incredible.
That was contacts and a piece of felt in the mouth, because they used shadow to hide the mechanism, I'm guessing. But it's such a simple trick. Like, just sidelight the eyes to make them glow, and like shadow the mouth so you can't see the actual mechanism. All you get is
so much scarier than anything they would have done nowadays.
Because you just catch a glimpse of it. It's like what was that fucking movie? There's a movie with Keanu Reeves where he works for a law firm.
The firm.
It's not the firm. Oh, it is the firm. Okay,
no, it's the Devil's Advocate.
The Devil's Advocate. You're right.
Devil's Advocate. Yeah. The scene where the wife's putting on the dress, and as she drops it, you see these fucking demon faces in her side. The first time I saw that, it was so quick and so subtle. I had to skip it back and go, did I just see what I thought I saw? And that's what this was at the end of this. It was like, did they have fucking snake eyes? Like, yeah.
There are a few I mean, just like master classes and building tension sequences. Do you guys remember when he goes to her funeral in the church, when he keeps looking at the crucifix of Jesus and he starts sweating and sweating, and he pulls out a cigarette? This is so good. This is a good acting moment too. I'm sure it was directed. I'm sure it was on the page. I bet he didn't just do this.
You're gonna hate me, but I had to rewind that because I fell asleep.
Oh, come on. He pulls out a cigarette and you're like, is he gonna light a cigarette in church? And then he realizes, what am I doing? I can't light a cigarette in church. And then he looks back to Jesus.
But it's somebody else's apartment. Knock yourself out. Just some stranger's place.
Yeah.
Go to church now. Sorry,
Joe. Well, I mean, it's fucking Europe. Of course you can. I thought that was a brilliant sequence.
It was the 70s.
The one I was talking about everywhere. In the opening, I think the most brilliant sequence of this movie is the most intense sequence other than the ending, when he wakes up sweaty and when he reaches over for the glass of water and it's a painting. You don't know it's a painting, but he reaches through the bottle of water.
That's
incredible.
And he's moving through the hallway and you finally see the bathroom with the hieroglyphs and he sees himself. And then he stumbles and he sees himself in the apartment looking at him in the bathroom. And he stumbles back to his house. That stumble back into his apartment, the way that they tilt up on that wide lens in the hallway and then cut to him sitting in the chair with the large scale apartment. So he approaches the window and it looks like he's shrinking. Yeah. I mean, that is just fucking A+ filmmaking. I mean, I was just like on the edge of my seat, but also, again, not to reference those other movies, but I was smiling while I was watching. I was like, this is so freaky that it's not just anxiety. There's something heightened about it.
I mean, there were other things as well, like they utilized blocking with the camera, keeping the camera in a singular and just panning, and the actors moved within the scenery. And it I mean, with this
that
one,
was fantastic.
With also this one, they also lit. They used a lot more lighting than he normally does, so that they could bring the depth of field out, so that you could see deep. You didn't lose detail in the apartment. Not a lot was blurred in the backgrounds in a lot of the shots, so that the set became its own character because it was always there looming in the background. So there was a lot of subtle stuff there with that, but like that also utilizes having that wide depth of field means they can move forward and backwards in blocking, and you don't have to rack focus anything. Like you just you've got all that space to play with, and they did utilize that very, very well. And it made for long takes that moved through different rooms, and it was just one take, and they never moved the camera. Aside from
there are so many times too where they really, I mean, and he's the king of it. Before Aronofsky, and other people picked up a similar language, just putting a wide lens in people's faces, just distorting people and putting groups into single shots and moving in and out of compositions so that you arrive in a place like that where somebody's like uncomfortably tight and the environment around them and their face are just a little bit stretched. Elements like the new plumbing, the noise, that the pipes make, the payoff at the end when he's bleeding, when he turns on not at the very end, but like the second to last sequence, when he turns on the pipes and there's just so much noise happening and he's convinced they're coming to get him, when they're playing the kickball scene with the human head. I mean, there's just so many things.
Yeah, that was fucked. Yeah.
Wasn't that good? There's just so many things that he planted that, again, they do. I know what you guys are saying. They do feel disconnected, but there was some kind of glue to the emotional experience that really overcame all of that for me. I didn't care about that at all. And I know what you're saying about some of the writing, but some of it I thought was really excellent. I liked, maybe you didn't, but I really liked the sequence where he's too drunk to have sex. And he's asked her that monologue where he's like, when do you stop calling yourself I? When does a man no longer become a man?
That's the only piece of writing I liked, but I still found it pretentious as fuck.
I have a feeling that was lifted directly from the novel because it's based on a book. It felt like it was maybe written on a page first, but pretentious as fuck. Okay. All right, Dave. I talk about this all the time in school because I'm not disagreeing with you. When Elizabeth and I were watching this and we were watching Vertigo a couple weeks ago, every time we watch movies that are from a time period where they got away with the artifice in their language, in the expression, visually, I'm so jealous. Like they were able to get away with things that were just so artificial because everybody knew it was a movie and you were allowed to be expressive. Now you have to be realistic. with like everything, or else people think it's pretentious or unbelievable, or, you know, they're just trying too hard or whatever. I just feel like we can't get away with as much expression as they were allowed to get away with. And I don't know, maybe that's one reason why I found a movie like this so refreshing, just because nobody makes stuff like that anymore. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, they do, but nobody goes to see it. That's the hard part.
I think
Bardo,
is the hardest part.
Right?
Bardo.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody watches shit like that.
And there's, what's the other one that's coming out soon with Emma Stone in it? Did you get the trailer for that when you went and saw the
Largos?
It's a new Largos film, yeah.
His new film.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling that's one that's going to be like creatively expressive, but no one's going to go see it. Or it'll be a fucking cult classic. I don't know.
A lot of people went to go see The Favorite, but I know what you mean. Like there's going to be some real, you know, highbrow filmmaking in that film, and I'm sure a lot of people are just going to think it's hoity-toity. But
they're going to think it's men, and they're not going to go. No, I like men. God, we like men. We like men. No, they're gonna think it's Mother. Remember Mother?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that yet. I gotta watch that.
Could you guys not? I could not stop thinking about Darren Aronofsky when I was watching this. Like one of his biggest influences, I think. I've never heard him say that out loud, but I thought about him a lot while I was watching this.
I've seen Kafka come up as like a comp for this, you know. But
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Oh, I'm so far from my microphone now. Guys, what a conversation about The Tenant from 1976. Roman Polanski starring himself.
One more time.
5'3", short king, Roman Polanski. All right, people. It is now that time in this episode, like all of our episodes, where we go around the horn with a quick round of what you've been watching, where we tell you what you've been watching and give you our recommendations for the week. We like to start with Dave. Dave.
I finally saw The Creator.
Oh my God, you've been talking about this.
Yeah, I've been waiting because I'm a sucker for new sci-fi whenever they like bring out new sci-fi. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great story. I would compare it to District 9 in tone. And I just sat back and I had enjoyed the journey. So yeah, when it drops on streaming, definitely give it a watch. And also I've been keeping up with Gen V, which is still holding up. And
what is just a little bit of what
Gen V is the Boys spinoff.
Shit, fucking behind. But I was just on Prime and I was like looking for shit. And
yeah, Gen V is sitting right there. There's like 5 episodes out.
Well, I got some time before the end of the season then, huh?
There you go.
Nice.
And it's already been renewed for season 2, so yay.
The Says. Brandon, did you see anything?
I've seen plenty. I'll give you guys a few of them. So given that it's Halloween season, I've been watching some horror movies, and there's a couple I wanted to recommend. The first one, it's a movie called The Ritual. I think it's from 2015 or so, around that time period. It's a David Bruckner film. He's the guy who made the Hellraiser last year, the 2022 one. He also made a movie called The Night House in 2020, and dude, this thing blew me away. It's on, I think, Hulu.
I couldn't make it
Netflix original.
Oh, it's Netflix. That's right.
2017.
Dude, this one got me. It's like Antlers meets Midsommar or something like that.
Oh, I like it. I'm in.
Jesus.
I like it. Big fan.
It has some of the most haunting forest imagery ever put on film, and it's very tastefully done. I can't say enough good things about it. And then the other one I wanted to mention was this movie called Haunt, which is this. You look like you've seen this, Jeff.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I feel like I've seen so many trailers for shit that I want to watch.
Dude, this thing, I was literally like on the edge of my seat the entire time. It's a haunted house, kind of, not haunted house, but like a, what do you call it when you like pay to go into a house that people have turned into a haunted house? But this thing like takes a fucking haunted dark turn.
Prostitution.
Anyway, it's a super suspenseful, very well done, tight little hour-and-a-half movie. That one I think is on Hulu. And then also I call it the Claude Rains 1933 Invisible Man, which was, dude, it was so good. I think it's probably my favorite of like the Universal Monsters era kind of movies that I'm sure blew people the fuck away when they saw that. The effects actually hold up pretty good.
Have you seen Hollow Man?
Oh wow, way back. Like when it came out, I think I saw it.
That was a vicious twist on that movie.
Apparently, they made one or remake recently.
Yeah, we reviewed it.
You did.
Yeah,
all right.
It's like our 3rd episode or something. Maybe it was way back.
Yeah, we had to refilm. We had to re-record 45 minutes of that episode too.
Yeah.
Good times.
Awesome. Brandon, DASEIN. John, what do you see?
I need to watch more things, but the little bit I got to watch this week, we were just continuing with Downton Abbey. I'm almost finished.
I hope Elizabeth makes it to this part
still
of the episode
good?
and hears the excitement in your voice.
Is it still good? It has its moments. Like,
yeah, I'm hitting you anyway.
That says it all.
Yeah. It's very soap opera after they get to the point where we were joking about after those characters die or leave the show. It feels like something else now.
Who doesn't love a good vindictive writing out, though?
Guys, I downloaded so much shit to watch. I was asking you about it. I was ready to start Foundation. I was ready to start all this shit. And because I traveled twice in the past 2 weekends, and I'm very tired about it. And the only thing that I saw that was original content or IP was The Intern, which is that Robert De Niro, Nancy Meyers movie. From
Nancy Meyers, yeah, Anne Hathaway.
Nice little rom-com. I would say it's a little soft. That's what I would say. I would say it's too soft. And,
softer than normal Nancy Meyers?
Yeah, I would. Okay. And De Niro, I don't know if he's good at being like a punch cut actor. You know what I mean? Like, De Niro, let's make it seem like you just smelled something funny. You know, kind of like, oh, they said this. Be like, I don't like the little, like, kind of like the cutaways. I don't know if she knew it. I don't know if she knew what tone she was in for a while. I watched it with Angela when we were talking about. She loves the Nancy Meyers. We talked about Worst Pride. We talked about a couple of these, and I was like, I wanted to watch the interview, and ultimately I'm glad I saw it, but it's just too soft. And I don't think she knew.
That's like one of her only movies I've never seen, and I've heard it was really good, so I'll keep that in mind.
Cool. Go into it with really high expectations.
Yeah, but I know what you mean about De Niro. I don't know if he belongs in a cutty film that's going to try to capture one moment. When it's him, really his thing.
When it's him and Anne Hathaway just talking, and she's the one that has to do all this stuff, and he's playing it cool. Fine, great.
Jeff, there are moments at the beginning of Killers. That conversation that's in the trailer where him and Leo are just talking. Yeah. It goes on for so long at some points. Sometimes they just don't cut away, and it's just De Niro like in Mean Streets, just improvising with whatever fucking happens moment to moment. It's breath. It's really.
Did he take some Adderall before filming or what?
Does he pull a gun on him?
I'm not sure. Great dialect work in this.
I have nobody to borrow money from. Guys, where are we gonna? Will we spin the wheel now? Announce later.
Let's spin the wheel now.
All right. Let's see what we're gonna talk. What year we're gonna talk about next week. Oh my God! Oh, yeah. 1991.
Nice.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
What a fucking year. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
1991. What a year. 1991. Reversal of Fortune. I'm going for it. Was that 91? Shit. Or did he win the Oscar in 1991? We stopped the episode now, but I don't want to be an asshole. Reversal of Jeremy Irons.
The episode's still running, dude.
Fuck, it's 1990. He won the Oscar in 1991. Fuck.
Nobody's hit stop.
All right.
This is all going out.
1991. This is Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, so we'll see what else came out this year. Can't wait to choose a movie. Guys, you're the best. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. Everybody listen to Nescient part. What are we on? Part 6? What EP? What happened?
some interludes. Couple.
Can we talk about your background? I know it's from. I don't know it's from anything. I thought it was Lord of the Rings, but it looks like
it is.
It looks like Planet Earth's vagina right behind your head.
There you go.
Thank you, film fans, so much. We'll see you next week.
I just pulled the handbrake on so many jokes.